Hey guys, Sacrament here, and I wanted to show you this Aerostorm build I've been cooking up. I see a lot of people been writing this off, saying it's kind of useless, it's kind of not that good, and there might be a little bit of truth to that, but I think as a, let's say, foundation for what's to come, I think that this has amazing potential, specifically considering that I saw the patch notes today, and I think that in the future, there will be an Aerostorm build that will be pretty dominant, I think. But this is a pretty standard Aerostorm build. It deals pretty much everything in the game. I've been able to get to pit 130 in about 3 to 4 minutes. 3 minutes on a good day, 4 minutes on an average day, we'll say. So really about 4 minutes on pit 113. But that's still pretty good. That's only about 10 points behind Penetrating Shot and about 20 points behind Death Trap. So all things considered, we only do physical damage and we don't rely on CC because Aerostorms, is a physical damage ability. We're still pushing pit 113, which I think is pretty respectable. And everything else in the game, we absolutely destroy. T12, easy. T10, easy. It's a pretty easy build too. As far as playstyle, there's not a lot of thought that goes into it. We're not doing like 15 different things to get some one big massive thing. You kind of just, hold down barrage and kill things. And that's pretty much how it functions. So how do we do this damage? The main way that we do this is by abusing the interaction between overpower and critical strikes, specifically with the Banished Lord's Talisman. Your critical strikes deal 18% increased damage per stack of overpower, and that is a pretty massive multiplier. We can get up to 12 stacks of overpower for a total of 216% increased damage to our critical strikes, which is massive. So all we now have to do is, okay, well, let's make sure that every attack is a critical strike, or damn near every attack, right? And we do this with getting up to 75% crit chance, and in combination with Inner Sight, which gives us another 25% plus crit chance for a total of 100%, and then another 25% X critical strike damage. Every 4 seconds or so, or really it's about, every 4 seconds, we just kind of destroy everything on the screen and do massive amounts of damage. So that's how we do that. The gear is pretty straightforward. We're using Air of Perdition. It's a pretty standard helm. Everyone uses it. Make sure you get that critical strike chance up. That's what you really care about. I would masterwork that. Obviously, I don't have any GAs on this. That maximum life GA is something you can do through Temper, so don't worry about that. Next, we have just a standard, as you say, chest piece. Dex, life, armor, barrier generation, and then max life as well, tempered again. And we use Heavenly Strength while wielding a two-handed weapon. You just take 40% less damage, which is pretty fucking awesome if you ask me. So we use a bow, which is ranged. Or sorry, it's two-handed. So we just always have this, unless when we dash and stuff. But even then, it's minuscule. We are using Temerity. Unfortunately, my Temerity is bad because Temerity is one of those things you can't farm for. Unfortunately, in fact, 2 of our uniques you can't farm for, which does make this build a little bit difficult because they are kind of really important. Temerity doubles our life. And we have a lot of life. We have 54,000 life. So having a good Temerity really matters. I have everything except armor. Dex, life, barrier generation, and ideally you would want armor here. That would be ideal. For the gloves, we're using just a standard pair of gloves, and we have the Vengeful Asphyx. Your Aerostorms deal increased damage and have 50% increased size. That's really important. The Aerostorms can overlap. And with our unique here, Cassia's Grace, your Aerostorms last 2 seconds shorter, deal some more damage, and have a chance to create another Aerostorm when created. This is really important with the increased size because now the Aerostorms, they'll spread everywhere and they overlap. So you can have one enemy, if there's other enemies getting hit, you can have them all taking damage from the same Aerostorm, and then Aerostorm can proc another Aerostorm, which overlaps, and there's a lot of overlapping damage, which can make it pretty insane. And all that damage is kind of bursted now because they last 2 seconds shorter. So that's pretty impressive. And then here, just some boots. Most importantly, you gain 1 overpower stack each time you swap. That's whatever. But you have increased damage while you have overpower. That's really important. 20% increased damage on a boot slot, I think, is pretty insane. And we always have overpower. Always. Like, I could show you. Like, we just start attacking things. My overpower is at 12. And it just never goes down. It just never, ever goes down. Because the first time that we crit, we gain a stack of overpower due to our charm right here, Gladiator's Triumph. The first direct damage you deal to an enemy is a guaranteed critical strike. When a marksman skill first critically strikes, it gains some increased damage, and you gain 1 stack of overpower. This can stack up to 4 over your maximum. So this is how we get our first additional 4 stacks of overpower. Remember, you only have 4 stacks of overpower base. This gives us another 4 for a total of 8, and every stack gives us a massive increase to our damage through our Banished Lord's Talisman. So that's how we get the first 4, is through that charm right there. Then, of course, Cassia's Grace. Weapon damage, dexterity, maximum life and critical strike damage. Instead of maximum life, I would prefer life on hit. I got lucky with the transfigure. You can see here, it gave me life on hit, but if that was a roll on the weapon, I think I would have got 1800 maximum life, and then you can increase that, I think, to damn near 2000, which is much, much better than 5k HP, because what's the point of having all this HP if you can't sustain it? That's very, very important. And because I can't sustain it, even though I have temerity, I actually have to use in the helm here, I have to use Tom K, which gives us the shield from the druid skill tree. Ideally, I would have life on hit here, so I could take that off, and I would put on Tom Ohm, which gives us the 70% increased damage from the Barbarian's Shout skill, which 7% is important, especially since they took out Cax. They took out Cax, which is probably a good thing. Everyone who used it, it was probably just a little too good, but I miss it. So there's that. Venusaur's Talisman. This cost me a whopping 8 billion gold, and I only get to use 3 of the affixes. Okay, so it's unfortunate. I didn't know that willpower, when I read it on the website or whatever, I was like, okay, willpower, I can use willpower. Improves healing received, that could help with my life on hit, but I didn't realize that willpower, it doesn't work that way. So I'm a little shit out of luck there, but I got a little bit rewarded because when I transfigured it, it gave me that massive 100% crit damage. So we'll take it, and lucky hit chance doesn't help me, but whatever. Ideally, you can see here, you want attack speed, crit chance, crit damage, vulnerable damage on your offensive stats. That's what you would want. On the amulet in particular, you actually can forego the crit chance, but you want attack speed, crit damage, vuln damage, and then ranks to basic skills. If you could do that. If you could do that. Good luck, because this is a unique, so we can't, so just, you know, pray that RNG holds your hand and guides you swiftly, okay? Ring of Starless Skies, self-explanatory. It helps us reduce everything, and it just gives us a massive damage multiplier, and it has 2 of the stats we need. With attack speed and crit chance, these are huge multipliers. The lucky hit we don't care about, and the ranks to core skills we don't necessarily care about. It's not a big source of our damage, but there's that. And then I got lucky with the transfig of all stats, but Ring of Starless Skies, must have. And then of course the ring, I just kind of touched on this earlier. You want attack speed, crit chance, critical strike damage, and vulnerable damage. You want that here, you want that here, and you want that on the amulet if you can help it. And then for the every time you create an Aerostorm, their damage is increased. So self-explanatory, that's how we increase Aerostorms. If you notice, Aerostorm is a very wonky skill, and there's not a lot of ways to increase it. From what I can tell, from what I've gathered, the best ways to increase Aerostorm damage is the coefficient of the skill itself. You can see here, if I take points out, the Aerostorm damage, oh, I can't, but you can see it goes down. It's at 394, but then if I put skills, oh, now it's at 411, now it's at 422, 430, you see? So increasing the skill value increases the damage of the Aerostorm. So that's the first way. The second way is with Dexterity. Dexterity increases all skill damage, and Aerostorm is a skill because it procs off a skill. So it does increase that damage, which is important. The third way is with Marksman skill. Aerostorms are a marksman skill. Like, they have their own way. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but any type of percent damage to marksman skills increases the Aerostorm damage. You can see there's the Aerostorm tag there. So that's another way to increase it. Those seem to be the main, like, 3 ways. Everything else is through crit damage and, like, other, like, you know, universal modifiers that everybody has. So, and then for the swords, we have Dex, Life, all damage, crit. You want that, and you want to crit. You really want a GA maximum life. This gives you so much life, it's insane. Same thing here, exact same thing. I got lucky here, Dex, maximum life, all damage, is pretty insane. I wish that was crit damage, but it's okay. And then I got lucky with the transfig that gave me 8% maximum life. For the imprint, your maximum overpower is increased by 4 while you were fortified. Fortification, that's pretty easy actually. Concealment, every time you conceal, you fortify for 27% of your maximum life. That's it. And because you have a barrier, it just stays there. Fortify doesn't deplete. It just will forever stay there as long as you know, in all of human history and time, it'll just stay there. So that's nice. So you can actually like turn this on before you do something, before you take an engagement, before you activate a boss fight. You can like stack up your thing, and then you just have +4 maximum stats, which is nice. And then here we have True Sight. We use Inner Sight, so we deal damn near 200% increased damage when they're marked by Inner Sight. While Inner Sight is full, we gain 100% increased damage. Both of these things can proc at the same time. So if I start attacking this guy, you'll notice eventually when my Inner Sight procs, you'll see a massive number. Okay, we didn't see it because there's too many numbers here, but I've seen it, and I've seen this thing hit for upwards of like 500 bill. Well, that one hit 300 bill, but I've seen 500 bill, 600 bill. I've had like multiple 500 bills proc at the same time. But essentially, oh, there we go. I saw one. Essentially, these things proc at the same time. you get the 200% increased damage and the 100% increased damage on one enemy. So one enemy just gets nuked, and this is why lair bosses are so free. Lair bosses, pit bosses, Mephisto. I deleted Mephisto. Now, it took me a couple of tries because I didn't know that he would delete me as well. He has 2 abilities that just one-shot you. It doesn't matter what character you are, you just die. But once I learned to dodge those abilities, I mean, yeah, he just deleted. I mean, he just dies. You just dodge the first 2 abilities, and then I just shoot their shit, and he couldn't play the game. It was unfortunate for him. So there's that ability. And then of course the gems. You want physical damage, and that's it. Now you may have noticed in the tempers on all the offensive gears. Now the tempers here, you know, health, movement speed, but all the offensive tiers we have 30% damage per overstack. We have damage per overstack. I'm sorry, damage per overpower stack. I can't speak. That is insane because we don't really care about additive damage because of how insane this is. For starters, on a sword, for example, most additive damage is going to say something along the lines of 40% shadow damage, 40% damage over time, 40% crit damage. 40% seems to be the baseline with some exceptions. Overpower is the same way. You can, at base value, you get 4 stacks of overpower. So if you get 10% damage per overpower stack, which is what it is base, that's 40% power. The difference though is overpower without anything already gives you 15% by itself. Okay, you can see here, overpower increases your damage by, oh, okay, well, my stuff's all added together, so, but if you have no tempers or no additive damage anywhere, it's 15% base. So actually, what's going on here is overpower already gives you 60% if you have 4 stacks of it, which everyone can do level 1, we can all get, plus 4 stacks of overpower. But then when you add another 40% on top of that, it's like this compounding effect, and the more of it you have, the better it is, especially when you get, when you start having like multipliers that go alongside with it, like with the Banished Source Talisman. It's one of those like the more you invest in it, the better it gets type of thing. It's like an exponential type of gain. Now I don't know if it's mathematically exponential, but I'm just saying in theory, like in principle, it's like an exponential type of acceleration, if you will. So, and that's just that. But we crit for some of these we crit. Some of these we couldn't crit. I don't know. I went through like 500 fucking scrolls of restoration, and these things just wouldn't crit. So I just gave up. Okay, I said fine, whatever. You can be annoying. But we put these on everything, and in total, when we do this, at max stacks, we have 133% plus all damage per stack, and we have 12. This alone carries us with all of our all damage. We no longer need, I mean, we have 1,700 total, and I over 1,000 of that is just from the overpower stacks. What this means is we don't really need additive damage. When we get into the Paragon, you'll notice I don't have a lot of additive damage. We just don't need it. These little like these little bullshit damage to healthy. What is 6% when I'm getting 133% per stack? You know what I mean? 6% to close. We don't care about any of these. So we can ignore these, save our Paragon points, and move towards things that we actually give a fuck about, like, the resistances and things of that nature. So it's just something to consider. It's a huge source of all damage, and it also means that we don't really care about all damage. The only reason we have all damage on the weapons is because nothing else works. I would put life on hit here, but we don't use these weapons for damage, so we don't get benefits from the life on hit. You see what I'm saying? So we just don't care about it. But that's why we do overpower or damage per overpower stack. It's a massive multiplier. For gems, we do physical damage multiplier. This is why we don't care about physical damage multiplier here. You just get it all from the gems. This alone is giving me, what is this? 24, 22, like we're getting, what, 88, 90% all damage X. Like, that's more than enough. We don't really need more than that. Remember, you want an even field of all of your damage multipliers. It's very important. In the gyms, we do all resist because I have a pretty good baseline. Crit chance, we hit that 75. That's all important. And even if you don't hit that, in fact, you actually don't even need 75. And we'll get into that when we get into the skills. You actually only need, 11. So reduce this by 11%. What is that? 62. You actually only need 62% because our caltrops give us 6% if they're in it, and our what's this ability called? This gives us another 5%. So that's 11%. So you actually don't even need 75, but it doesn't hurt, you know what I mean? Because caltrops is contingent upon them being in the caltrap and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, so let's go over the skills. So obviously using before we do that, before I explain the skills, I should probably explain the talismans so you understand why we're using these skills. So we're using the narrow eye, which is the marksman skill. When you cast a marksman skill, gain a stack of vengeance, gives us 12% increased damage up to 5 times. Cool, we understand that. While you have vengeance, you gain a dark shroud every 2 seconds. You also have 30% damage reduction whenever you have 1 dark shroud. Cool, we get that. When you have Vengeance, your marksman skills do 200% increased damage, and you trigger the last marksman basic skill you used 3 times whenever you cast a marksman skill at a targeted enemy. So Force for Arrow triggers an arrow storm every 3 autos. 1, 2, 3. Oh, hold on. I got it. It triggers every 3 autos. That's what it says, right? Instead of knocking people back, it triggers an arrow storm. But because of this, when we cast it, we actually shoot 3 of these things every single time. At least we should be. Oh, there we go. Yeah, at a targeted enemy. So you can see the arrows, the Force for Arrow being shot right here. So, and Barrage shoots arrow storms as well. So we actually shoot 2 arrow storms every time we attack. The only contingency is that we maintain our stacks of Vengeance, and unfortunately, the auto casting of the basic does not trigger. You can see it's going down. I have to actually press Force for Arrow every once in a while, see that, to maintain the stacks, which is a little cringe. I don't know why it works that way. It's not intuitive. It doesn't explain that way. Blizzard, what are you doing? Please fix it. But at least, you know, it's a huge damage multiplier, and now we can just rain down hell on them constantly, forever and ever and ever. So that's that. So that's why we use Force for Arrow. And here we do energy to help with our energy consumption or regeneration. And then Ferocity gives us attack speed, which is important. Barrage, reduce the cost of it, and then increase the attack speed. So attack speed is very important because since we shoot 3 of these at a time, the more attack speed you have, the better. It's just more. It's not necessarily more damage, quote unquote, but it is more damage per second. It's more uptime. You're just doing more damage faster. Sorry, you're doing the same damage but just faster, which is nice, and it helps with playing because it does have a huge startup time, which is nice. And then here, Succession. This is how our arrow storm. We don't really care about ranks to Barrage, but it helps. If you're wondering how do I get all these ranks, it's through the passives of the Talisman. See, +2, +3, +3, and this one I got lucky. It's +4 if you get this GA'd, which is pretty massive, and this is infinite, right? The more ranks, the better. I got this Mythic Seal. It's pretty useless. It gives me max life, though, at least, but ideally, this could have been another plus, you know, whatever to marksman skills and, like, X crit damage or something. This could have been a huge multiplier, but I just got unlucky. And then, I got this one here that gives me another 3, so just have to consider. And then the Gladiator's Triumph can also give you another 3 if you get lucky. So just ways to boost the ranks to the skill if you want it. So Shadow Step, reduce the cooldown by 3 seconds. Unstoppable, which is nice. And then I use the one where it doesn't require a target. I don't think I'll ever, as long as I live, go back to these 2. I just don't see a reason. Being able to freely teleport like a sorcerer, it's so overpowered, it's so broken. It's amazing. Everything's just easier, it's better, you're fast, you can fucking teleport through walls, you can skip like entire sections of maps. It's great. You can glitch through doors. It's just a beautiful thing, and I'm glad they added that. Also, the taunt is pretty good. Taunting enemies is pretty good. Dark Shroud, 5% crit chance as long as we have it on. I just skip these 2. We gain dodge chance for every for as long as we have Dark Shroud. Now, the only reason I picked this because these 2 seem kind of useless. I don't think dodge chance is that good. I don't ever notice it. I don't know. Maybe someone can tell me if I'm wrong. I just don't notice it. And then this one, 50% chance for the shroud to not be consumed, which is important because as long as we have 1, we gain that 30% damage reduction from our Talisman. Caltrops, duration is decreased by 2 seconds. 3% crit chance against enemies inside your caltrops, and double this if this is vulnerable. So if you're having trouble with crit chance, throw this on someone. You'll have to be melee, so good luck, but you'll get an extra 6% crit there. And then it's a marksman skill, which does help because we do marksman skill damage, so it adds a little damage, but it marks people as vulnerable. This doesn't matter necessarily because when you transfigure your amulet, the additional aspect you want to add is this one right here. Your arrow storms deal 21% increased damage and continuously apply vulnerable. Now, it says 21.8%, but you see the range says 22 to 37. So we're somehow beneath the range. I saw a video about it. Apparently, it's a known bug. They're fixing it. I think I went through 70 of the fucking things that you need for this. I think I went through 70 of these. And I got this many times, and every single time it was 21.8. I don't even think it's possible to go above the... I don't even think it's possible. There's something going on. So if you are going to re-roll for this, once you see 21.8, don't waste any more of your charms. Don't be like me and waste a fuck ton of shit for something that is clearly bugged. So there's that. Dash, just ranks to dash. Increase your chance to be critically strike, so that's another 5%. So this is 6%, this is 5%, and this is 5% for a total of 17%. Did I do that right? No, sorry, 16%. 16% additional crit if you're struggling. So realistically, you only need, what is that, 60, was that 50? I can't do math. I can't do math. You only need like 65% crit. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't need the full 75. But these are conditionals, right? You need to make sure you have Dark Shroud. You need to make sure you hit them with dash. You need to make sure they're in the caltraps. But it is possible to get that 100% crit if you so choose. Concealment, movement speed, fortify, which is huge. Ranks to this increases the fortify amount, which is nice. Gives us ferocity, which is nice. Gives us more attack speed, and then gives us resolve, which gives us more armor. And I think this is the only form of resolve we have. So there's that as well. And that's it. We don't use any ultimate skills or any improvements because we're purely physical damage. So that is the skills. The Paragon is volley. This is direct damage to our Aerostorm. This is one of the only other additives we have. We only have 2 additives. We have the volley here, and we have the is this one chip? And we have the chip here. These are the only 2 we kind of max out because physical damage and volley damage is like kind of important, but that's it. We don't have any other additives. These little additives in the tree here, we just do not care for. So there's that. And then this one, we do ambush. This is why we have caltraps. This is another 60% X critical strike damage to enemies affected by your trap skills. Remember, it says enemies affected by your trap skills. This is a reason why we have the range variant of it that turns into a marksman skill, because all these enemies count as being affected by this. Right? They're affected by it because it made them vulnerable. So, and it's damaging them. So that's how we get these increased multipliers. Ooh, look at that, 350 bill. Nice. We are hitting for trillions of damage, by the way. Like, it's a whole bunch of billions, but this is trillions of damage, especially in a group of enemies when they all overlap. It is disgusting. So it's not like the big, trillion damage of the, of the penetrating shot, but it is still quite a lot of bit of damage. And remember, this is only the foundation, because version 2 of this is going to be insane when they release the patch. It's going to be fucking nuts. And then in there we have Headhunter. Remember, dexterity is another way that we can increase the damage of Aerostorms. So doubling the value of all these nodes is really important. I wish it told, 207 right now, just from this alone. Insane. And it gives us 10x damage to elites, and then just a flat. It gives us 2 multipliers. It's just really good. You really only care about the multipliers. You don't care about the additive damage as much because we have all that additive damage from our overpower stacks. And then we go into cheap shot here. Now we don't CC, really. I think every once in a while we might like immobilize someone from something. We do run Sobo, and I know he CCs, but this is just a flat 50% X increased damage. And our other options weren't good. I can't even show you what they were, but they're not good. It was like Lorana's Instinct and something with combo points and something with like Cutthroat and Marksman skills. It was just weird conditionals that I didn't care about. This is just a flat 50% X. And then, hey, if they're stunned, we do double. Nice. You know what I mean? Like, fuck it. It is what it is. And then here, Marksman skill, you'll notice we only have 40. We only wanted to reach that threshold, so we get the 10% reduced damage, and then of course at level 50 we get another 11% X multiplier for all damage for marksman skills, which is nice. So that's that. And then here we do exploit weakness. They're always vulnerable because of the aspect that we transfigured on our amulet. 60x increased vulnerable damage. The first time you hit a vulnerable enemy, their damage is reduced by 20% for 6 seconds, which is nice. Just some damage reduction. And then here we have Pride, 300% bonus to all rare nodes. Now the rare nodes don't matter that much. Damage to elites, fine, but that's massive. 40 dexterity, that's chunky, and another 40 dexterity. That's why we have it. But the other reason we have it is it gives us another 2 multipliers. 27% X increased physical damage to both healthy and injured. There are not a lot of ways to scale your physical damage. In my opinion, this is a must-have. It gives you the dexterity and it gives you the physical damage to healthy and injured. The healthy part doesn't matter as much. It helps sometimes, I guess, if you're on for like T10 farming or T12 farming. If the enemies are low enough, you might be able to one-shot them with one burst of the Aerostorm. But it does help for injured enemies, because injured, I believe, is beneath 33% or 30% health. And I noticed that in like the pit in particular, bosses typically become staggered around that mark. We have some form, I don't even know where the CC is coming from. We have something that CCs them. Eventually they get hit with enough CC, they get staggered, and then we have this 27% X multiplier kicking in to do a lot of damage. And I think that is effectively it. Oh, and then last thing, for Sobo, if I knew how to work this, we use Sobo here. Killing elite gives us movement speed, which is like whatever. But the main thing is 25% increased critical strike damage. So that's the only reason we use him. And then we use I still don't know how to say her name, Variana, there we go, for the 10% attack speed. That's it. And yeah, that is the Aerostorm build. You can just kill everything, really. There's really nothing the build can't necessarily do other than push high pit tiers. That's the one thing that the build can't do, but everything else is, I mean, the world's your oyster. You can do whatever you want. You want to do lair bosses, you want to do Helltide, you want to do Undercity runs, you want to just kill Lilith over and over again and hope she drops you something nice. Like, kill Mephisto over and over again. It really can do everything. And once again, like I said, this is version 1. I think version 2 will be even better. And just to give you a little sneak peek of what I mean by that, Arrow Storms releases 5 storms that each deal 238% damage. So this is lower than Forceful Arrow. But let's take a point out there, put it in. This is a marksman skill, so it went up. And look at this. Oh, hold on. Give me another point. And when we do it here, now it's at 387%, but there's 5 of them. And in the patch notes, it said, fix the bug where the Shadow Clone provided by the Talisman set that gives you a permanent Shadow Clone, when it casted Rain of Arrows, it wasn't triggering the 5 Arrow Storms, but now it will. So that's 10 Arrow Storms that each deal. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? Hold on. Wait a minute now. It's about to be disgusting. I promise you. It's about to be disgusting. But yeah, that's it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. And I will have a full, it won't be a guide, like a full, like proper guide, but I will at least have the planner of everything. I'll just copy paste everything I have into the planner so you can see specifically. I'm sure I missed something in particular. You may have questions about, like, hey, what about this? You didn't mention this. It will be in the planner below. People really enjoy things like that. But yeah, that's going to do it for me, man. Thank you all so much for watching.